نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين صدق الله مولانا العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الأمين المكين الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين أعظم من بسر ساما مدد قبلہ دی مدد کعبہ ایما مدد قادریہ نعرائے عود اعظم میزنم رمز شیخ احمد رضا خان قطب عالم میزنم سیدی یا مرشدی شاہ مصطفیٰ خان زندہ باد مسلک سرکار اعلیٰ اعلی حضرت زندہ باد یا الہی مسلک احمد رضا خان زندہ باد حفظ ناموں سے رسالت کا جو ذمہ دار ہے سیدی یا مرشدی شاہ مصطفیٰ خان زندہ باد حامد فیض رضائے مصطفیٰ امداد کن صلی اللہ علیہ النبی الامی وآلہ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم صلاة و سلاما علیک یا سیدی یا سندی یا حبیبی یا طبیبی یا رسول اللہ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم وعلى آلک واصحابک یا رحمت للعالمین. All praise is due to Almighty Allah. Durood and salams upon the most perfect, exalted and glorified of Allah's creation, Sayyidina Mawlana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. These blessings and salutations upon the Anbiya Ikram, Ahl Bayt Athhar, Sahabah Ikram, Khulafa Rashideen, Tabi'in, Tabi'in, A'immah, Mujtahideen, Awliya Kamilin, and all those who will follow the path until the last day. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His infinite mercy and to the wasila of Rasul Akram, Nuri Mujassam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, for affording us the opportunity to congregate for Salat al-Jum'ah and to prostrate in His most exalted court. Before continuing, let us direct our hearts and our minds towards the holy and the sanctified green dome of the beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, thereby directing our attention to the foot of the beloved Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And in doing so, let us collectively recite the Hud Pak. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyana Mawlana Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Mawlana Muhammad wa ashabihi wa barik wa sallim salatan wa salaman alayka ya Sayyidi Habibi ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ala alika wa ashabika ya rahmatan lil alamin. Last week I said that we will discuss, Allah willing, the reasons and the causes for the destruction of our young generation and the harm that is being caused to our youth, and how this manifests itself, causing them to divert from the path of Deen and to become distant from the commands of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But to get through that discussion, there has to be a starting point. And the discussion will not only include the youth of the younger generation, it includes every one of us. The youth specifically, or more than the elders right now, because of the vices of this dunya that they are facing, that is causing them to be so easily manipulated and being misled by the agents of Shaytan. And we should always remember that the strength of any community is their youth. The strength of any community is their youth, the youngsters. And the spirit of any community is the elders. The spirit of any community are the elders. Because without them, there is no real spirit. But the youth are the strength of any society. And when that strength becomes weak, then definitely it impacts massively on society. It has a great and a massive impact on community, it has a massive impact on society. And this impact leads to the erosion of community, it leads to the erosion of society, it leads to the erosion of basic ethics in community. And this is why we find that many of us have no control over our own children. We have to be honest about it. Whether it is your house or my house or a friend's house or a neighbor's houses, we do not have that 100% authority that we had 25 or 30 years ago. You and I do not have that. What is the reason for that? Because of a piece of technology. Because of a piece of technology that you and I have put in the hands of our children. The cell phone or the tablet. It controls our homes more than we are able to control it. We have to be honest. It controls our lives more than we are able to control it. It controls the behavior and the character and the attitude of our children more than we can control it. Because they spend more time with it and it spends more time with them. Because they spend more time with it and it spends more time with them rather than the time we spend with them and they spend with us. Am I making sense? I think it's a topic that's taboo. Nobody wants to talk about it. Very few people want to talk about these things because it implies to everybody, almost everybody probably. Whether it's your house, my house, or anybody else's house, all our kids have the phones in their hand. And we know when they sit on it, what happens? Allah Jal. Right? You put rules and you put conditions, but still, how much do they follow? Especially in the youth, in the adolescents. But the sad part about it is that the elders are also using it for the same khurafat. So, this is a problem. It is a very big problem. And the important thing, I don't know if there's somebody here that's a psychologist in the masjid. I know there are doctors sitting in the masjid. But they will tell you that when somebody goes to them with a major problem, or you go to a psychologist or to a psychiatrist with a problem, the first thing they tell you is that you have to come out of denial. Reality? Dr. Muhammad? Come out of denial. You have to accept that there is a problem. Because until you deny the problem cannot be resolved. Comparison, for understanding, without comparison. If a husband and a wife have a problem, until the husband of the wife does not accept that we have a marital problem, how will you solve the problem? You have to accept it. These are things that we have to understand and we have to realize. If a man is taking alcohol or he's taking drugs, Allah na kare that any Muslims are doing this, people do it. But until such time that he does not acknowledge that what he is doing is wrong, and he does not come out of this denial, how will it be rectified? If a person beats up his wife, and you should never do this. Yes, sir. You should never do this. It's against the commands of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Your wife is your wife, not an animal. Yes, sir. I'm being very blunt about this because there are all men in them. Not an animal, not a janwar, not a nokar. She is your partner. Subhanallah. She is the mother of your children. You need to think about these things. So if somebody is doing this, that person needs to realize and recognize his weakness and know that there is a problem and acknowledge the problem. These are some of the musibat and the parishanis that we are having in community. And it's starting at very young age. But again, there can be no treatment for something which you do not acknowledge. A person has diabetes and his HbA1c says 11, 12. Doctor tells him you have diabetes, he's got past the 7.1 mark. You have to take this medication, you have to do this, and you have to do this exercise, you have to not eat this. Even when his sugar is at 20, he says, but I'm not diabetic. Most of us do it. Because we don't want to accept. We don't want to accept. When you accept it, then the doctor will treat you. Likewise, if you accept our spiritual illnesses, then it will be treated by the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you see, there is one factor that is very important here. There is one factor that is very important, and that factor makes the biggest difference. That factor makes the biggest difference, and that factor is called Shaytan. That factor is called Shaytan. Is not only the factor, is the factory also. Not only the factor, it is the factory of fitna also. And what happens? Insan becomes the knocker in that factory. Are you understanding? Man becomes the slave and the servant in that factory. He becomes the employee of Shaitan. You say, but Maulana, who wants to do it? Come on, let's look at each other's lives. Let's be honest. Not saying to do it now. Do it when you're alone in your home, in your bedroom, quietly. And look back at the things that we do in our life. Allah says in the Holy Quran, in Surah Yusuf, very, very clearly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, Surah Yusuf, the 12th surah of the Quran, 25th verse. Allah ta'ala says, Inna Shaytana lil insani aduwwun mubin. Allah says, indeed, certainly, Shaitan is man's manifest enemy. Allah is saying He is your open enemy. What are you doing about it? What are you and I doing about it? You know, when we read namaz or when we read the dua, we say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. What are you saying? Oh Allah, we seek protection in you from Shaitan the cursed. I seek protection in you from Shaitan the cursed. Isn't it? How are you seeking the protection? Tell me. We are asking, Allah is the one who can protect. You can't protect yourself. But what are you doing? What are you doing to make sure that that protection is beneficial for you? Allah is there to protect you. Allah is the protector. Okay? But the problem is that the big factor and the factory is Shaitan. That is what causes a man not to accept and puts him in denial. When it comes to his deen, it throws you into this pit and this abyss of denial that you cannot come out. A man is in a pit. He needs to come out, but he will not hold a rope because he does not believe he's in the pit. He thinks he's in a gold mine. If I dig a little bit deeper, I'll probably find gold. I'll probably find diamonds and gemstones. Not realizing he's digging himself deeper into a pit that has nothing. That will be the cause of his destruction. Something very basic to understand. Allah Ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, and I've repeated to you twice already this verse, Inna Shaytana lil insani aduwwun mubin. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says in the Holy Quran as well, in Surah Fatir, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala clearly states in Surah Fatir, Inna Shaytana lakum adu. Inna Shaytana lakum aduun fattakhiduhu aduwa. Allah Ta'ala is saying in the Holy Quran, in Surah Fatir, very clearly. So ayat number 6 of Surah Fatir, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is saying, Inna Shaytana lakum aduun fattakhiduhu aduwa. Indeed, Shaitan is your enemy, so you regard him as your enemy. Subhanallah. Quran is saying that. Indeed, Shaitan is your enemy, so you regard him as your enemy. And indeed, there is no doubt about it, that Shaitan is your enemy. But Shaitan, do you know, it has Imam al-Ghazali radiallahu anhu, Sayyidina Imam al-Ghazali radiallahu anhu says that Shaitan is firing the arrows of fitna at you 24 hours a day. Shaitan is firing the arrows. You say, what are these arrows? I don't see any arrows. I don't see any arrows. This arrow that Shaitan is firing is called waswasa. This arrow that Shaitan is firing is called waswasa. What does it mean? Evil whispering, for understanding purpose. Evil whispering in our ears and in our hearts. And this firing is the arrow of Shaytan. Come on, let's look. I know in Jummah time is limited, and every Friday we know Maulana takes 5-10 minutes more of your time. I'm going to try and finish as soon as possible. But for understanding purpose, okay? Shaytan is firing this waswasa. Have you ever saw some? I want you all to, we're going to do a little test. I'm also part of this test. Let's do a test. When you go shopping, when you are sitting to have your meal, when you are talking to your friends, when you're doing anything else, does any other thought usually come into your mind except that which you are doing? No. If a person is playing a game, he is so lost in that game that he is playing, does any other thought come in your mind at that time? Except how to win? Let's ask quickly, quick test. If you are busy eating your 3-story burger, I'll give you the examples for the youth. Okay? At that time, when that meal, which is your favorite meal, is in front of you, is your mind on anything else, or is it on the meal that you are having? What is your mind on at that time? To taste, to relish what you eat. Everything that you do, your mind is in that, and it gets caught and absorbed in it. How is it possible that when you say Allahu Akbar, that's when it comes into your mind what time you need to buy the groceries? Before that, never thought about it. You don't remember that you need to buy half a loaf of bread. You don't remember that you need to go buy a block of cheese. You don't remember that you need to pick this person and do this tomorrow. Why is it that when you say Allahu Akbar, that's when it comes? Why doesn't it come at any other time? Because Shaytan knows that now he is in the remembrance of his Rabb. Put it now so that there is no sincerity and devotion in what he is doing. This is the arrow of Shaytan. Have you thought about it this way? This is the arrow of Shaytan. Now some people say that how is it that some really great people get misled? You see some big scholars, name, but they end up doing things that are completely the other way around. How come they doing it? Maulana is haram, how come the Maulana does it? Maulana doing doesn't make halal and haram. Maulana stands, Allah na kare, Maulana stands on the streets and makes peshab, it won't make it halal. Baith ke peshab. Maulana doesn't, the Sharia doesn't depend on any Maulana, whether it's me or anybody else, the Maulana depends on the Sharia. Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Always remember this. When you weigh something, between even a scholar, you weigh it with what is the command of Allah and His Rasul. Not because of his personality. Now, how is it but sometimes people who have knowledge, you see somebody who is so much in ibadat, believe it or not, he's a person who's always in the masjid and whatever. And one day you find him doing something that you never dreamt that he would do. How do they get caught in this? Have you ever thought about it? This is not an excuse to justify our wrongs. Number one, before I say what I'm saying, it is not an excuse to justify our wrongs. But let me give you a quick example. There is a tyrant, there is a zalim. He oppresses everybody, so everybody is scared of him. Everybody is scared of him, but they know he's a troublemaker, so what do they all do? They just keep away. They try their best to keep away because he's somebody who is a tyrant, he'll cause me problem, he's a troublemaker, he's a fighter. Okay? So just stay far from him. If you're not in his face, you're safe. Just keep away to avoid the problem. Isn't that what mostly do? But then you get one person who says, no. Why should we do that? I'm going to be in his face. I'm going to tell him you are wrong, you cannot make zulm on people. You cannot oppress the people. You cannot cause taklif to people. I'm going to say it to him in his face. Now tell me, who will that tyrant be against more? The person who is not in front of him or the person who is now fighting him? Now what will he do? He'll pull up his sleeves and find all his ploys to fight that person. Why? Because that person is opposing. Now Shaytan troubles everybody. But it troubles more the person who stands in the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because when he stands in the ibadat of Allah, he is fighting Shaytan. Subhanallah, subhanallah. Thought about it? He is fighting Shaytan. So Shaytan now stands up against him more. Doesn't just leave him. Shaytan doesn't just relax anymore. He gets up against him. And especially if the one who is doing it is one who encourages others to do it. A true scholar of deen. Then Shaitan goes more against them and tries to harm him more. Tries to make him fall into guna. Tries to make them fall into calamity. Tries to make them think away from what they should be doing. Why? Because he is now in confrontation with him. Because he is now in confrontation with him. And that is why the Quran is reminding you at that time. Don't forget that Shaitan is your enemy. So you regard him as your enemy and seek protection in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as said in the hadith. But sometimes we don't realize that, and Imam Ghazali says that when Shaitan attacks at that time, Shaitan doesn't attack alone, he attacks with all his other Shaitani agents. And you know what he said? Imam Ghazali radiallahu anhu says, don't think that Shaitan and just his agents attack. Some of his agents, and the great scholars have said very nicely that Shaitan is one whom you can't see, but he can see you. You are relaxed and he is busy attacking you. Because you are oblivious, you are heedless of what is happening. You're not thinking about your life. You think 24 hours, nothing happened, everything is good. Shaitan has fired don't know how many arrows in that 24 hours. Do its damage later. Okay? So Shaitan is continuously doing this attack. So the main factor is Shaitan. First thing a person has to understand and realize that Shaitan is his enemy. And when he does this, then inshallah al-azim, the help of Allah will be with him. When he takes the step to rectify, to put his life in order, to do what he should do. And to end, this topic is a lengthy discussion, we'll talk about it more next week inshallah. But this is a message for our young generation, more than for everybody else, myself included. That Shaitan attacks you with all his agents. Imam Ghazali radiallahu says, don't think his agents are those outside. Don't think his agents are those outside you. His agents are inside you as well. His agents are inside you as well. Oh Imam Ghazali, what are the agents that are inside me? Your nafs, your desire, your carnal pleasures. They are there. And when you start doing good, that's when Shaitan triggers it. Have you not heard people say, I've heard it, and you know it, that Maulana, when I stand in namaz, the worst thoughts come into my head at some time. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Something that I would never dream about, it comes at that time. What did that? Something that is already there and that has not been controlled. Something that is already inside us that has not been controlled and tamed, that wakes up. Who caused that? Shaitan. Why he caused it? Because you're oblivious of your responsibility in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you came towards it, now he tries to put you away from it. That even though you may stand and say Allahu Akbar and tie your hand, but your namaz is only formality. Okay? So it is very important to understand that Shaitan is the main factor. And for our youth and ourselves to really do what we need to do, we need to continuously, when you say A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem, it must not be lip service, it must be sincerely with devotion that, oh Allah, I want your protection. A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem. I seek protection of Allah from Shaitan the curse. It must be from the heart. That's why I said in the past, when you stand in namaz and you say Ihdinas Siratal Mustaqim, it must be from here. It must not be because I have to read Surah Fatiha. Yes, you have to. But it must be that I must be sincere in my heart. Siratal Ladina An'amta Alayhim Ghayril Maghdubi Alayhim Waladdallin. If you do that, then inshallah lazim Allah's help is there. But we have to try and come out of the stage of denial. First stage for our youth and our community, and more for the parents of our children. Because the child may have a problem today, the parents don't want to acknowledge it. This is another problem. And when we acknowledge, we become the ones who support. We don't acknowledge that our support is there for what is being happening wrong. And when we support what is wrong, we are responsible. But if we acknowledge what they are doing is wrong, and we try to find a way for it, then they too will be forced to find a way for it. Think about these things, and it's very important. Allah give us strength in Iman and true love for the beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah keep us with Iman, let us leave this world with Iman. Those that are ill in the community, Allah grant them shifa, kamil, sehta, ajil. Those that have passed away in Ahlul Sunnah, Allah exalt them in Jannat al-Na'im. Those that have any parishani and difficulty, Allah remove them from the parishani and difficulty. Those in all parts of the world amongst Ahlul Sunnah that are going through calamities, the Muslims of Palestine, and everywhere else in the world, Syria, Yemen, Hindustan, Pakistan, wherever the Muslims are going through a difficult time, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease the difficulty, and may Allah ta'ala protect their lives and their souls, and may Allah ta'ala protect their families and their izzat and their iman more than anything else, and protect our lives and our iman and our family and our izzat. Allah keep us with iman, let us leave this world with iman. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.